on our countdown to EDO 2020, which is just about 12 days away. And when you say it that way, it looks like it's still far away. But as a matter of fact, we're talking about next week, Saturday, 19th of September. EDO people will be out from their homes, from their communities, from their towns, from their villages to vote the candidate of their choice for the next governor in Edo State. In the last couple of days, weeks, running into months, campaigns have been massive. As a matter of fact, it's now at its peak. And so today on the program, we're looking at the politics behind the election. That's been ongoing in the last couple of days, weeks, and months. But today, we're looking back, some retrospection to analyze, talk about how all that transpired before the election and electioneering proper is going to influence the outcome of the election. Like you always know, before the electioneering starts, you have the political parties holding sway. They decide who becomes the governorship candidate. They also decide who becomes the deputy governorship candidate and a whole lot of other things. Once the candidates emerged, in a sense, the power to determine goes beyond them to the electorate. So today on the program, we're looking at how all of this will shape EDO 2020. I'm joined now in the studio by a former senior special assistant to the state government. He's an author and a public affairs commentator, Frank Ehiosun. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
We also have with us in the studio a civil society activist, a public affairs commentator. He's also a politician. Let me welcome Comrade Emmanuel Aigbogun. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, viewers.
On the second half of the discussion today, Fidelis Esegbe, Engineer Fidelis Esegbe, as well as Roy Oribabo will be joining this conversation. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Emmanuel. Yeah. Is there any way all of these factors that played out, particularly with the political parties before now, will have any meaningful impact on the election itself? Would we be correct to say the real power to determine who becomes what has left the traditional politicians and is now in the hands of the electorate, the voters?
Sure. I agree with you to that extent that the electorate, the citizenry of Nigeria as and Edo people as a state under the sovereign nation called Nigeria will determine who becomes the next governor of Edo State. And not just at that stop. I think the polity, the policies and polity of the current incumbent government would also formulate the decisions that will guide electorates at the poll. I believe strongly that our electorates, are not really, in conformity with the prospects of this current administration. I keep hammering this over and over again because I'm a youth. And as a youth, I believe one gainful measure for us to benefit from a process of governance is to be engaged, by the process. And when you talk of a government that has created, claim to say they have created 151,000 jobs in Edo State, and is coming out to tell Edo people that come, I'm going to still do more, when that which they say they have done is not visible. I have over time challenged, relevant authorities to come out with a statistic to show averagely the telephone numbers and names of these persons that have obviously been engaged by this government. But to my greatest surprise, we've not seen any. And that notwithstanding, we all know the style of antagonistic approaches that the ruling cabinet or the ruling government has towards the political elite. We saw what happened to our own very own Right Honorable Pius Odubu, who was appointed NDDC chairman, and in fact the Edo State government came out to say that it was not time for Edo State, when we have seen NDDC chairmen come out from certain states for over a period of time. As of today, the leadership of NDDC is still with Akwa Ibom. The past leadership that just left is still with Akwa Ibom. I don't know how we can marry that to the decision of our governor.
Okay.
So these are the issues, and the people are very much informed. The governor, through his running mate under the PDP, the person of the rice man, did come out to Kenny Masabo, did come out to say that the governor has built 192 health centers in the 192 wards. And I come from Isi. I have not seen, since Obaseki became governor, I have not seen any, infrastructural, prospects in our health sector.
Okay, let me proceed. Let me proceed. We'll get to this aspect of the conversation, but I want us to ask as much as possible to stay on course and dwell more on the politics behind the election, particularly with the horse trading, the controversies that trailed where we are now. Let me get you in, Frank Houston. I want us to critically look at the powers of the politicians as far as an election is concerned.
Yeah, I was quite taken aback when my discussion...
No, it's okay. Just wanted to establish the point that he started,
No, but we are talking and the public is getting information from a line of discourse. So this was put in perspective.
Okay.
Imasowo, for example, is not the running mate of the governor. It's Comrade Shaibu that is his running mate. But they're the same political party. That's on the side.
Okay.
And on the issue of the job creation and all such stuff, I would say if by 157,000 jobs have been created, somebody said it was going to create 200,000 jobs in 4 years. And by the end of 3 years, there was statistical evidence by relevant authorities with the competence to so do, to affirm that by 150,000 has been created. That's quite a pass mark. Now, that does not push aside the fact that it may just be a drop in the ocean because of where we are coming from, when there's so much unemployment in the country and, in fact, in every household possibly. So a step in the right direction is what I think this symbolizes. So I wouldn't blame him if he hasn't gotten details of people that have gotten jobs. You cannot change the world in a day, especially when it has gone so bad over time. Now, coming back to the issue you put forward, concerning politics, I think I'll start from the standpoint of appreciating the concept of democracy, which is the system in practice. From the days of the founding fathers, most scholars give credit to the days of Solon in Greece, about 500 BC, when it was coined from demos and kratos. That's the Greek word that democracy came from. Demos means people, kratos means rule. So the norm was actually to transform society from what was obtainable, talking about aristocracy, which pertained to the rule of the elite, to the rule of the people. So democracy actually is about the rule of the people. That's the trust. Now, so talking about politicians, you said it's like it has been moved away from politicians to the electorate. Even if that coinage is peculiar, I find it unfortunate because primarily the trust of democracy is about the people. Demos, kratos, the rule of the people.
Okay, let me just pause it there. So, I'm coming. Let me pause it right there. I'll come back to you in a moment so you can embellish this demos and kratos philosophy that you just brought into the conversation. It's the TMI Monday. Just to let you know that in case you want to contribute to the program, you can send your WhatsApp messages to this number. The number will be on the screen shortly, but let me just read it to you so you can write it down and maybe you can start sending your messages. We'll attend to them as we get along on the program. 0706 710 7477. That number will be on the screen right now, and you can post your comments, your contributions to the conversations on the program this morning on ITV, impacts of politics behind the elections on EDO 2020 as part of our countdown to the D-Day, which is just 12 days away. And next week, Saturday, to be specific, is 19th of September. We'll be right back.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Thanks for joining us on the program TMI Monday on Independent Television Benin. Today's program focusing on EDO 2020, the impacts of the politics behind the election. This is against the background of the political intrigues that characterized the electioneering campaigns for EDO 2020 governorship election. So the question now is, have the politicians, the traditional politicians, the ones you can call career politicians, have they lost that now, against the background that it is now, the power is now in the hands of the electorate to decide who governs in those states in the next 4 years? A panelist, Frank Ehiosun, is an author and a public affairs commentator, and of course, Comrade Emmanuel Aigbogun, a public affairs commentator and also a civil activist. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, Frank, let me get you started. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Like I affirmed earlier, that democracy, I made reference to its origin, as it accepted the world over.
Okay.
Dating back to the time of Solon in Greece, about 500 BC. Of course, with reference to the Greek terms, demos and kratos, being the core words from which the term democracy originated. Demos for people, kratos for rule.
Okay.
So it's actually purports the rule of the people. And that was against the norm as it was then, which of course is still prevalent in certain climes, where you could term it aristocracy, the rule of the elite. So it's about taking the mantle from, in quote, the elite, who are a minority everywhere, to the majority, which is the people. And that is the trust of the system. In my opinion, like I said a while ago, that coinage concerning the capacity to make people, in quotes, or elect people into offices, being taken from the politicians to the electorate, I affirm that the coinage is somewhat unfortunate, because the primary trust of democracy is about the people making a choice as to who will lead them.
Okay.
And the premium is placed on the majority, because they are the ones that will determine who emerges in the long run. One minority, they say, would have their say. I think that in Nigeria, politicking is been interesting, dating back to where we're coming from First Republic. But there's been a decline in the culture, in my candid opinion. There was something that happened in the 1959 elections, just a little reference by the side in our cultural politicking. I will detail it in this piece, The Traverse of Democracy and the Rule of Law. In the course of going to campaign, you know, his party, the Action Group, as at that time, originated from a tribal group in quotes,
Okay.
Egomo Ududua.
Okay.
But that did not preclude them from having a peculiar political ideology, which was democratic socialism, and that places premium on the equality of the people.
Okay.
So they were going to campaign all over the country, went to the north, were campaigning so vehemently, placing premium on the people. Unfortunately, the culture at that time in the north did not place premium on the people. It was an elitist society where hierarchy was where premium lied.
Okay.
So at a point in time, because of what AG was doing then, the then Saduna of Sokoto was compelled to now go out to campaign to the people. And he saw it as strange. How can I, a prince from the peak of royalty, now be campaigning to Montasro to take orders from me? In fact, there was something that was reported in the Sunday Express on the 20th of December 1959, specifically on page 2, where he affirmed out of pain, because after one of the campaigns, he used handkerchief, and when he saw the dust that came out from his nose, he now vowed that he was going to invade the south, just like Awo in quote invaded the north, to not just invade, but defeat them politically and hand it over to his political lieutenants. So I just said that by the side. But normally, it's about the people.
Okay.
Everything about policies, structures, government, how democracy should grow, how the system should merge, is centered around the people. On and on and on, laws are made, reviewed and reviewed to promote inclusion and ensure that the people are the ones that determine who emerges.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Let me appreciate you for those thoughts. Would you describe this election as a contest between the elites and the ordinary people, if I may use that word, what Frank called the demos and the kratos, against the background of what played out at the beginning of this election activity and what we have currently? Is that what it is to you?
For me, I would not want to go by the saying of my brother, not because we share different political opinion, but because in today Nigeria, I believe we must focus more on realities. What is, visible to the eye. What can one see and say, yes, this is what we are proud of. This is what we accept as a people. This is a norm we choose to live with as a people. See, the society itself is in dire need of better governance. Thank God he quoted the Greek statement, Demos Kratos. The question to ask, how do you relate it or narrow it down to democracy? Now, when you are narrowing it down to democracy, every citizen in a democratic state must talk on the deliverables or must wait on the deliverables of government. But when government itself has failed, the obvious that is expected of every right-thinking citizen is to show the person the way out. And that is a situation where we find ourselves in our today's society. So for me, I don't think as of today what Edo people who want to sit at home should be hearing is one form of idealist theory or the other. What we are bothered about is, have we advanced from where we were 4 years ago? Where is the next 4 years ago or 4 years to come taking us to? What do we hope to achieve? You know, on the part of the divide, on the political divide, you have one who have been tested with over 420 billion naira worth of our resources, and another who is coming to say, yes, see, I'm going to provide cottage hospitals. I'm going to ensure that the central hospital work up to optimum capacity.
Yeah, it's not just another. There are about 13 of them others who are also saying the same thing.
I started earlier by saying I focus more on reality.
Okay.
I don't think the over 4 million Edo people that are watching me this morning would have heard the manifesto or the campaigns of other political party. As of today, even when the security agencies try to muscle within the political party, you see them inviting the PDP or the APC. I don't believe in trying to create a scenario that is not visible to man or visible to the society. What I believe in is a better society, an ideal society. Even if we are striving to get there, the basis in which we are striving should be commensurate with the resources and the revenue available to the system. As of today, we have a governor that is collecting 650 million naira security votes. What does that, imply within the security architecture of the state? How have we been seeing the issue of security? I heard the other day from the governorship candidate of the APC saying that Edo State does not even have tracker. I could imagine sometimes when I go to the state command, when one loses his cell phone and the other, they say they want to track the phone, they will begin to tell you that they have to send it to Abuja to run analysis and all that. No, the world today is a global village. How do you create this infrastructure for the people on ground within this sovereign state called Edo? How do you create the infrastructure for them to benefit? That is the business of democracy. Democracy is a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. So when we forget about the fact that what the people want is a better society, Benin people, or rather Edo people, don't want to be driving on the roads at 7 o'clock and they can barely see, when there's no street lights and the infrastructures are there, they are not working. So these are what we need to marry peri passu when we are talking about the decision that will form the outcome of the polls. We should talk more of realities on ground. The theories have been there for ages. What have they reflected in our society? Not in the, you see professors putting theories and theories.
Let me pause it there. If you just join us today, TMI Monday, impacts of politics behind the election is the focus of our discussions on our countdown to Edo 2020. Frank, in every political parties, you have leadership at the ward level, local government level, and the state level. In every contest like we have, these are the people that will determine who becomes the candidate of the party. Their influence and powers, does it end after the election, after the candidate of the party has emerged, or it extends into the election proper? That's something I'd like to get your thought on.
No, on a very critical note, it extends into the period of election and even beyond. They play a very vital role. The political party, of course, is the fundamental vehicle by which people give their expression in the democratic system. And in fact, there is a relationship of proportionality between the stability of any democracy with the culture of the political parties in the system, in the country. And where you have political parties that are not properly institutionalized in terms of their practice, over time you see it reflecting in the instability and somewhat uncertainty that beclouds the entire political landscape. So the cadres of leadership in political parties from the ward to the local government to the state level play very vital roles. After the candidate gets ticket in quote from the political party, in the course of campaigning for elections, these are the same persons who mobilize the electorate. That is their primary function even, or one of their core functions, because they are closer to the people, they have structures across even all the units. So they are the ones that mobilize the people to come and give flesh to the candidacy that they have given to the person that they gave their ticket to.
So what are the key determinants in EDO 2020?
In my candid opinion, I appreciate before I hit the nail on the head, I want to appreciate my co-discussant's viewpoint when he talked about realities and diminished the value of, in quote, theory or ideas. And I said, no. That doesn't put the facts in true perspective. Whatever you call reality is a product of relevant theory. The piquancy of any reality we experience today is pendant on the depth and contemporary spell of the theory that gave birth to it. It's just like whatever action a man takes. The coherence of thought is what translates into the actions that any individual carries out. If your thought is not coherent enough, it will reflect in the dysfunction that in the actions that are carried out. So in this part of the world, unfortunately, most of the time we just take Western ideas for granted, forgetting fundamentally that ideas rule the world. What we call the Cold War that occupied the globe for over half a decade between the West and the East was centered around simply ideas.
Okay.
Why the Marxist ideas, that of Karl Marx and Engels that promotes the extreme of socialism, well, they were putting their write-up. What people sustained that struggle were books and write-ups. Why the communist people were writing books per second in their millions.
So theories are important.
They are not just important, they are the bedrock.
Okay.
Without a theory, it's like not having a foundation and you are trying to put up a building. The nature of the foundation is debated on the relevant theory.
So let's yeah.
Making progress from that standpoint, he drew allusion to the performance of the government of the day, that people will see reality. I said no, reality must be measured comparatively. Comparatively to the extent that it is measured against available resources, it is measured against the utilization and how priorities are placed, it is measured against the level of transparency in the process. A number of factors must come in view. There have been governments in this world, if not in this world, in this state, in this country, where a governor comes and he has very wonderful intent, but unfortunately resource becomes a challenge. Now when resource becomes a challenge, you don't measure the governor's performance just because there are no projects. You must measure it against everything that is available within reach. I'll make reference to the Great Depression in the 30s, in days of Roosevelt. Americans saw things go so bad. They didn't give up on the government because they appreciated that things are so bad, but this president is visionary. In the midst of the emptiness of the system, the guy's ideas seem to be taking us somewhere. Yeah. And they could buy into the idea because they could see passion, they could see transparency, they could see focus. So that's what I'm trying to tell him. Reality must be measured within certain peculiar context.
Okay.
Now, coming to this very case, I made one to say that I'm not driven by conventional jingoism as it pertains to political participation in this system. The government of the day, in my candid opinion, you can't be 100%. You can hardly ever be 80%.
So what percent are you going to score the government of the day?
I will score the government 70%.
70%.
And I'll give my reasons. A number of factors put together. The guy brought in some level of humanity, decency, in governance. There's something about the truth. What gives value to the truth is not the extreme of the emphasis you place on it. It is what the people perceive of it because it will reveal itself over time.
All right, let me pursue
see how the
that.
name came about, wait and see. Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Just in relation to what he said.
Yeah, Frank.
This governor, you hardly ever see him commission projects or do anything peculiar. Because from his background, he views government from the standpoint of responsibility.
Okay.
Where you are elected to work for the people and not for people to be praising you for doing anything for them. So it was even of their own accord. They didn't see anybody commissioning any road or opening one project But all of a sudden they wake up on and see some new projects. That is how they, of their own accord, call them wait and see.
So that's a major factor in this election.
It's a major factor.
All right, comrade. Yeah. Now, I'm back to where you've always wanted us to go to this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, some of us coming from the background of socialism will not want to begin to marry, you know, the big grammars that has to do with politicking. Just the way my brother is traveling. I'm a Benin man and I live in Benin City. The business of democracy with me is what reflects in my society to become a reality. So I don't want to marry the, so to say, theory view. But however, let me quickly say something. As of today, I don't know if my brother is aware. He said something about decency. As of today, I don't know if he's aware. Edo State health workers that stake their life to ensure that COVID-19 was put on the check in the state have not received any level or form of enumeration for that services, that's pandemic services they render to the state. When other states are busy paying what is called hazard allowance, our own state is not earning that. I don't think how when doctors who all went to school to read medicine for 5 years come out in data, there is a PDP state, their governor is paying them their hazard allowance. In all those states, there's an APC state, their governor is paying them allowance. In those states, there is an oil derivation state, the governor ceases to pay them that allowance. As I speak to you, when you talk of decency, people took their life for COVID-19. We took them to protest before they received their wages.
But were they paid after all? Ultimately, no, answer the question. Were they paid?
Yes, some of them. But as of today, the health workers, those you see in Central Hospital, in Stella Obasanjo Hospital, they are not being paid. Okay. I have doctors who are my friends who went to school together. They are complaining bitterly. They are not being paid. So, but that aside, let me quickly say something. The reality and the decency you are talking about, my fellow contestants. I say my fellow contestants. It's shocking. Yeah, we are contesting all the TV to get the truth. What you said about the issue of decency, is it right? I want to ask, is it right that our governor will spend over 18 billion naira on consultancy in the educational sector that has to do with Edo Best?
Where is your proof, really? Just a moment there. Where's your proof? Because when you churn out figures, it's important you back it up with evidence, because you know why?
Yes.
You churn out these figures. Nobody's here to defend it. Nobody, even you that is saying it.
I want to quote the governor at the Alagodao summit.
Okay.
He said the Edo State governor can make boasts today that they have trained over 11,000 teachers at a price per 1.5 million naira per teacher. So if you do the arithmetics yourself, that gives you a figure of what I just said.
It gives you a figure, or it gives you your figure?
No, it gives you a figure. Yes. It gives you a figure.
Okay, that's 18 billion. Yes. But that amount is too colossal to be left on.
That money was spent on consumption. Go and find that.
The agency you are talking about, Subeb, is an agency of government under the UBEC scheme of the federal government.
Yes.
Now, the counterpart funds of that agency in the past 3.5 or so years of its existence under this administration, it's not about 3 years of its existence. The total counterpart fund, both state and federal, is not to that amount.
No.
I'm telling you,
I totally disagree with you. Go and see the status of the project.
Let him establish the point. Yeah.
Okay.
See, I'm a businessman too. I do other things. I can tell you, I've known this agency from the time it was set up. I followed them in total. I'm telling you that the counterpart fund, what the Edo State government is contributing in the past 3 years, is not even up to half of that amount. To now make up what to be the money allotted to the agency to work. Okay. How can you say you have spent 18 billion on consultancy when you don't even have half of that?
Let me inform you.
All right. Let's make progress because we don't really have much time. To what extent have we been able to send the right messaging to the electorate to respond positively? I mean, we've been seeing the feedbacks from the campaigns and all of that. Do those things we see at the campaign grounds reflect the true aspirations of the people? Let me start with you, Frank.
To a large extent, I think it does. Well, in the course of this narrative, we must appreciate the fundamental, which is, I would term, a drawback in our political system. Because even if we say, in quotes, the power belongs to the people, our political processes, electoral engineering, has not, unfortunately, been structured enough to guarantee the kind of inclusion that would make us say that the people are totally in charge.
Okay.
And that is why there's still some bit of distrust, especially when you now begin to hear rumors of federal might, this, that, one advantage or the other based on such privatization of office. So, but in terms of campaigns as they have gone so far, we are not where we ought to be. But of course, it's making due impact on the people. Okay. Candidly.
Okay.
So
and this will reflect in the election.
It will, of course.
Let me get a final word from you.
I want to quickly say something.
Yes.
And that is how when you talk about the reflection in the election. I don't know if my brother here is aware that in fact, basically 80% of what they've been campaigning with is a statement of Oshomole 4 years ago. And in those statements of Oshomole made mention of 700 million against Pastor Sageze Yamu alongside other persons. I don't know, when he talks about decency, I don't know how you see it from the point of view that the person who is currently championing the campaign of the governor was also a party in that suit of how 700 million naira was collected, from the then NSA, So for some of us, when you talk about decency, we try to disagree with you, sir. Because the current governor, in fact, the person who champions his campaign that has a slogan of Oshobobo, Oshobobo everywhere, Oshobobo, 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 it's a party in that suit. Okay. So if those majority of the governors' rulers, you see them on social media, SSs and the rest, saying Oshomole 700 million, what about Danobi? What about the current state party chairman? So let me tell you the truth. Morally, I believe that the governor does not have the capacity to say there is decency in his administration. Because if you marry the journey, the political journey, from a party that campaigned for him in 2016, to say that the man who they were campaigning against that was in PDP was a criminal, and now he left the structure that provided decency for him to emerge as governor to another party under the leadership of a major role player as he then was as the state party chairman, leading his campaign. So I do not want to marry that as decency. But the truth be said, that is why I want to narrow it down to what is obtainable today, the reality on ground. The reality on ground, our Edo people have been taken backward. 3 weeks ago, I went for a program in Boeing. I was so baffled that a state that does not have any form of oil attraction, in the state, can build lights, street roads. In fact, the entire streets, you wouldn't see cellophane on the ground. You wouldn't see street traders. Can't we replicate that in Edo State? Okay. And that is why, for me to leave my statement, that is why some of us are supporting Pastor Sageze Yamu, because he has said something. He wants to offer leadership by example. Okay. And that is binded in a manifesto he has, simple agenda. Okay. As of today, our governor, our executive governor in the states, goes around campaigning, and he does not have a manifesto that is a working document. Okay, so let's have got the point. So we can call it. He does. All right, Frank, I know you want to respond to all of this here, but briefly. Yeah.
He said he doesn't have a manifesto.
He does.
He has a working document.
No.
Performance in the past 4 years is a record to speak of, and a yardstick to tell where you are going to. According to Professor Peter Henry, he said, I cannot tell what the future is, but by the past. So by what he has done, that is his manifesto. Now, coming to when he talked about this, I wanted to ask him a question. Have you ever heard the governor mention the issue of 700 million? See, in politics, people air their views. The matter is in court, and the line of legal jurisdiction will take due course, no doubt. Yeah. But that does not remove from the decency I highlighted. You talked about security vote. My point about what you said about security vote is that you didn't expatiate on it. I've been very pained. I've been on this platform so many times where I will find that Nigeria, in quotes, appears to be some kind of banana republic because of this very term you mentioned. But do you know that this same security vote is not a part of those states? There are some states in this country where governors collect 1.2 billion monthly as security vote. Where is this happening in this world? It has been a practice over time. So it's not about him.
But it should be justified. There should be justification for it, yeah.
There should be justification.
Yes.
I am saying that in his own time now, funny enough.
Is there a justification for it? That's the question.
Generally, there's no justification.
Okay.
I'm talking generally.
Okay.
I'm saying that I'm critical of the concept of security vote.
Okay.
Because you don't have a slush fund that is not properly monitored by relevant arm of government. But in this man's case, see what I'm going to.
Yeah.
In Obasiki's case, I was taken aback. You are in this state, you have friends in the civil service, interface with them, those that work in the finance section. And they will tell you some of the commitments that this money is committed to. When I heard of it, I was shocked. A pensioner told me what somebody told him. And he know that a staff told him that about 40% of what is called security vote is actually what is amount to pay their entitlement. Huh? No, I'm not. I'm saying it.
Okay, my time is up, gentlemen. My time is up. I want to thank you for coming on the program. I hope that we can have more time again, some other time, to dwell more on EDO 2020 as we get closer to the D-Day. Saturday next week is 19th of September, by the way.
No
Frank Eyosun, thank you for coming.
No
Kamre Dimadal Hagbogu, thank you for coming on the program.